Hey everybody, Kevin here. I wanted to shoot this video tonight because I've been getting a lot of questions from people who have been asking me about whether or not it's possible to transition from industry into public practice. And if it is possible, how do you go about doing that? Now, for those of you who have seen my prior videos, you will already know that I used to work in industry. And about partway through my career, for a number of reasons, I decided to go from industry into public practice. The reasons that I did that, you can catch those in other videos, but just as a quick recap, I made that transition for financial freedom, for freedom of time, and for freedom of location. And like I say, if you want a little more on those three types of freedoms, you can go back and check out some of my other videos. But this video that I'm shooting tonight, this video has to do with whether or not, if you are working in industry, are you able to now transfer into public practice without too much muss or fuss? And what do I mean by muss or fuss? I mean, do you have to put your earning potential on hold? Do you have to get a junior position at a firm in order to get the required number of hours that CPA requires you to get in order to work in public practice? And it's funny because I was getting mixed messages. I know when I went from industry into public practice, there was such a system set up called the mentoring program or a mentorship program. What that allowed me to do is I could go from industry into public practice. I had a mentor who would oversee a number of my files, be it compilation, review. I never really got into the audit engagements. I didn't find that interesting, but I wanted to get into compilations and I wanted to get into review engagements. So I went through the mentorship program that allowed me to do a couple of things. Number one, like I said before in my other videos, I was making decent money in industry. And the last thing that I wanted to do, I mean, my wife and I, we had 3 kids, we had a family, I had a mortgage, car payments, all that stuff. What I couldn't afford to do was put my life on hold, go from a salary of $125,000 a year down to a junior position in public practice, making like maybe $40,000 if I'm lucky, and working, 40, 50, 60 hours a week. That just wasn't in the cards for me. And what I can say to that is, thank God, at the time it was CGA because my legacy designation is CGA. But at the time, CGA had a program that recognized that. And what they allowed me to do is I could go directly from industry, I could get into public practice, but what I had to do is I had to have a mentor who would review all of my files. And upon reviewing my files, he or she would provide feedback in regards to whether or not my files were up to snuff in terms of CGA standards at the time and that sort of thing. Now, when all the designations amalgamated, we now were all CPAs. And like I say, that I've been getting feedback from different CPAs who are in industry, and the feedback I'm getting varies. Some of them say they're quite sure you can make the transition. Others are saying you can make the transition, but what has to happen is you do need to get employed at a public practice firm at a junior level in order to get the proper number of hours that will meet CPA standards before you can get your license in public practice. So after going back and forth and listening to different CPAs, I thought, you know what, to hell with it. I'm going to make a call and I'm going to figure this out myself. So I called CPA and I asked them just that. The feedback that I got is that if you are in industry and if you are in the middle of your career, call it mid-career, you want to make a mid-career change and go from industry to public practice, the path that you have to take is you've got to enroll in the post-designation public accounting program. Now, what that does, it is very similar to what I had to do when I made my transition from industry to public practice, and that is Of course, you've got to take the tax courses. If you're getting into an industry where you're practicing tax on a regular basis, you better take the tax courses to make sure you know what you're talking about and you know what you're doing. That's not a big deal. You have up to 30 months in order to complete that program. And I don't think it'll take you 30 if you really want to get it done. Now, once you complete that, you can then enter into, I think they call it a bridging or a mentorship program, similar to the program that I entered into when I made my transition from industry into public practice. Now, the biggest change that they've made is that if you want to get into audit work or you want to get into review engagements, that's a different path. And quite honestly, if you're going from industry into public practice and you don't want an interruption in your earning capability or an interruption in your career, what you would do is you would go into the mentorship program that would cover off compilations. What that'll allow you to do, you can go directly from industry into public practice, and you can be working on compilations and personal tax returns. What I can tell you, some people out there might be thinking, well, what if I want to do review or what if I want to do audit? What I can tell you from my own personal experience is that I never wanted to touch the audit industry or the audit work or anything like that. I find that in this day and age, with audit, you can't have one foot in and one foot out. And what I mean by that is that you can't be doing compilation and review and a little bit of audit work and the personal tax returns and everything in between. If you are getting into audit, you better have an audit department and you better be well equipped and well resourced in order to service that part of the industry. And it's funny because I do know a couple CPAs who are doing all of it. They're doing the audit, the review, the compilation, and I can only imagine the audit work that they're doing, they're probably either breaking even or maybe even not even that. Because with audit work, like I say, you better make sure that your firm is well equipped to handle that kind of work and specialized in that kind of work, because it does take a certain specialty to be able to complete the audit work. Compilation, if you want to get in and start making some real money in public practice, your best bet is to do it through compilation. What I'll tell you about compilation, or the old term, which is notice to reader, or NTR. Number one, they're far less complex. Number two, you can probably do quite a number of the compilations in the same time frame it takes you to do one audit or one review engagement. Number three, there's far less risk that comes with them because they are less complex. They're pretty straightforward corporate tax returns. Yes, you're going to have some shareholder tax strategy built into that, but you can figure that out with the client. As far as CPA is concerned, follow the requirements that is required of a compilation, and it's quite a bit less compared to if you were going to do a review or an audit. And again, if you're moving from industry into public practice, unless you've got a real desire to get into audit work or assurance work, my recommendation is go through the mentorship program, get your license for compilations. You're probably, a couple of things, you're probably going to enjoy it a lot more. It's going to be a lot less stressful. And in my experience, you're going to make a heck of a lot more money doing compilations versus dabbling in assurance work like review or audit or that type of thing. And you're probably going to be able to leave the office without a migraine or a knot in your stomach. Getting into assurance work, review, and audit, you had better have the skill set and you had better have the resources in order to make sure that you are up to snuff on everything in regards to those type of engagements. And failing that, don't bother getting into it, because all you're doing is you're going to create a small, I forget the word small, you're going to create a nightmare for yourself that could balloon out into a fairly large nightmare. So again, my recommendation, if you're going from industry into public practice, take the compilation route. Get your license, fall under the mentorship program, get your certification that way, And a couple things, like I just said, you're going to make far more money. It's going to be less stressful. You're going to leave the office without a headache, so you can actually go and do stuff after the office. And then when you show up in the morning, you're not going to show up with a knot in your stomach because everything is taken care of and it's fairly straightforward work. Okay? So like I say, I've been getting, different messages from CPAs in regards to having to go and work at a firm, interrupt your earnings, interrupt your family dynamics, that sort of thing, if you wanted to get your required hours. And that's why I thought, the heck with this, I'm going to look into this, I'm going to double check it and see, which I have now done, which I'm happy to report back. There is an alternative route, and it's called the mentorship, or the bridging route, and it could be possibly both of those words. But the bottom line is, you can go from industry into public practice without the interruption of your financial earning power, and without the interruption of, usually people who are transitioning from industry to public practice, usually you're pretty high up in regards to working in industry. You're either working as a controller, a CFO, or a CEO, or something along those lines. And the thought of going back and starting at the bottom as a junior accountant is probably not too appealing for, I would say, almost all of us. And like I say, I'm happy to report that that is not necessary. You can go directly from industry into public practice under the mentorship program, or / bridging program. Anyway, there you go. If anybody has any questions, or if anybody wants to talk about the 7-figure accountant blueprint program, give me a shout. I'm happy to talk a little more on this. Thank you very much, guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.